Chapter 8 Game Model and Builders, in which we define a structure for building and combining the parts of the game model. We have now designed a dungeon map, DMap, and also initialized an instance with full test. However, the dungeon map is not the full game model. We expect to add more parts to the model. Like we saw with the resizing terminal, it's not preferable to handle a collection of things as a bunch of separate parts. It got easier to manage by combining those parts together in Event Manager. The same goes for our game model parts. We'll create a class game to hold it all, to be our game model. Some additional pieces we'll store there are the player himself, the random number generator, the dungeon, the builder, which we will explain in the following. A class dedicated to the complex tasks of creating and assembling the parts of our game as we need them during play. Constructing and composing our eventually complex game world model is not a simple task. Because of this, we make a dedicated class to handle it, the builder or the game builder. The game model will hold our data, but we also need to construct the model to compose its pieces together. Instead of doing that piece by piece, we can make an interface and a class for a builder. The builder will know how to make a player, a whole dungeon, a dungeon level, monsters, and items. Having builders and a toolbox for it will allow us to quickly and easily spin up small test scenarios with specific combinations of walls, rooms, monsters, and objects. For example, what happens if I fight a monster while standing on an item? What happens if I kill a monster while we are both standing on items? Maybe this causes a problem if the killed monster tries to drop loot on top of the existing item. Similarly, testing out relative power in combat is quick if it's easy to spin up a micro-dungeon with a huge trap between two kobold warriors, or to test a given spell or attack on a given group of monsters, either attacking them with it or seeing what happens when they attack you with it. In general, troubleshooting is easier if we make it quick and painless to spin up complete or minimal alternate environments, including or excluding specific features, or including specific alternative implementations of features, for example, a different way to draw the map. Another reason we need a builder is to handle game over. Once the player has lost the previous game, we need to create a fresh game model, in which he is again alive. Maybe the next fresh dungeon layout is easier to survive than the previous one he died in. Our initial builder interface will start out as 08 build if0 and 08 game if. If we have one of these builders, we can ask it to provide us with a game and to provide a map of a given level. For now, we will ignore that level number, but later it will control how difficult the level will be. Some background on making builders. There's a design choice in builders about who creates what. We need to create things twice. Once to allocate the empty container object, and a second time to populate that same object with children. In one design choice, the same party, that is, the builder, handles both. In the opposite design, the owning or receiving part, the game model, handles the empty allocation part, and the builder only handles the populating filling part. Whoever handles the initial empty allocation gets to control the actual types we end up using, and in particular what we'll need to do if we want to switch to a different and newer type with support for more stuff. A related choice is the ordering of combining smaller and larger things. In one approach, you construct the big thing first, then gradually stuff the smaller parts inside it, the top-down approach. In the opposite approach, you construct the smaller pieces first, then pass them immediately to the larger item upon construction, bottom-up approach. Neither approach is more correct, but they have different properties. Bottom-up has a nice safety property. Because its tinier parts are constructed up front, you have a guarantee it is always correctly constructed, since you are forced to supply the necessary components immediately when creating it. But this guarantee has a cost in rigidity, as you are forced to construct everything in a correct order. In comparison, top-down is flexible, but so flexible you risk screwing it up. For example, leaving parts uninitialized you were supposed to fill out. For example, top-down would let you decide if you want to place enemies first or player first, whereas bottom-up might require you to supply the player first. However, maybe you could still adjust the player's position later. Building the builder. We need a game class for the game IF. That will be 08 game model. Now we can implement the builder, the 08 builder 0. This may look like a lot of unnecessary structure, but as we continue to add more features and details to our game, it will be useful having this dedicated module to handle all that configuration. In particular, it will be clear where to place additional configuration. We will later make more complete Builder 1 and Builder 2, which has more complex and fleshed out ideas for dungeon layouts, monster types and placements. For now, it's enough to have build IF0 in place with Builder 0, so we have the proper structure for injecting a map and a game. We will not be running an index n for our builder yet. We need something to use it in first.